Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, as representatives, we each hold these positions of stature in our representative communities because of our titles. And as a result, we're often the beneficiary of certain benefits as a function of our community's respect for us and for the position. And we're also afforded certain responsibilities as a result of our duties. I've often said that I think difficult decisions should be debated before this body, because that's our responsibility, is to ask and debate and find solutions to difficult issues. 2 years ago, I was afforded a significant responsibility among my own family. I was asked to do the eulogy for my first cousin, Jarrett Keohokalole. And I'm a younger, as far as the adults go in my family, I'm on the younger end. And I was genuinely nervous when I was asked, because I didn't want to do it. And I knew that, being a younger member of the family, I knew why I was being asked. I was being asked because I was a person of stature in the community and in the family. And I didn't want to be asked because I knew I would have to say yes. And I knew that I had to, it made me think about death in a different way. I had to encapsulate the life of a person in a speech. And as a result of that experience, I've come to realize that we don't talk about death in our society, in our local community. We just don't deal with this issue well. Even for those of us who believe that there is life after death. But you know what, Mr. Speaker, no one is immune to this issue, no matter how much we ignore it. And if we cannot talk about something within this body, it limits our ability to address it in a meaningful way. Many families today, many of us on this floor, are impacted by the slow and often painful fade of a loved one. As an adult, I've personally experienced the slow decline of my grandmother, my wife's grandmother, and my cousin, whose eulogy I did. She died of cancer, pancreatic cancer, which was discovered because she was suffering from lingering back pain over a period of about a year, which she initially tried to ignore, and eventually, because of the pain, sought the assistance of a doctor for. In the spring of 2015, the doctors discovered a tumor on her pancreas that had not only spread to her adjacent organs, but was also pressing on a nerve in her back, which was the source of that excruciating pain. She underwent successive rounds of chemotherapy that ultimately proved unsuccessful. In April of 2016, she passed away. She was 47 years old. She had 2 children. She was in pain from that entire year, from her diagnosis until she passed. She was in pain. That year was defined by pain. The tumor pressed upon the nerve in her back, and left her in constant pain. And the side effects from the medication made it difficult for her to eat. I remember sitting in church with her, and she had a hard time sitting because of the pain, but she was too wiped out from the chemotherapy to stand, so she'd sit there and suffer. The sitting made it difficult for her to ride in vehicles, which made it hard for her to go over the mountain from Kaneohe into town to undergo chemotherapy to try and save her life. Toward the end, she came home. And for the last several weeks of her life, at home, eating was so painful that the only sustenance she could receive was water or juice soaked in a small sponge attached to the tip of a lollipop, so that she wouldn't die of dehydration. That's how she spent the last several weeks of her life, suffering.
Representative Ono, I'll give my time. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, these are terrible details to have to hear. I myself was uncomfortable with this issue again having to relive this situation, but I wasn't the one suffering. I was only a family member. I spoke with her family, I spoke with her daughter just to make sure that they were comfortable with me bringing this up, because again, we don't talk about this issue in Hawaii from a cultural standpoint, the local culture. But these things happen, they happen every day to people. And those are the people that we are considering in this legislation. We as leaders, are duly designated by our committees, need to hear these stories and understand the consequences of our action or our inaction as a legislature. Mr. Speaker, I can appreciate the concerns with this bill. I agree that we should be vigilant in our efforts to ensure that this proposal is not misused. And I believe that the approach laid out in this bill appropriately accounts for those concerns. Ultimately, I support this legislation because of the issues brought up by the Chair of Human Services. I believe this is a constitutional issue, a civil rights issue. Mr. Speaker, we have, each of us, a constitutional right to refuse medical treatment. If any of us today, heaven forbid, were to get into an accident and the ambulance were to come to try to provide service for us, we have a constitutional right to refuse their care. Even if we are bleeding out on the sidewalk, we can say, no, let me go. And they are duty-bound to abide. In light of that right, I just cannot see how, at the same time, we can continue to stand by a policy that acknowledges your civil right to refuse medical service, but requires people like my cousin to suffer at the end of their lives. Because I believe it is a civil right, I also believe that the government should, as it does with all other civil rights, recognize that the assertion of that right comes at the age of majority. You have no civil right to smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol. You do have the right to privacy from government interference in medical decisions, though. I believe that, again, this is a right of personal liberty. Individuals should have that freedom. And this bill gets the government out of the way by no longer forcing these people to suffer. Where in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, does it say that the people have empowered the government to force this type of suffering that I previously described on their citizenry? I don't think that the founders accounted for this. I really don't. Not when they drafted a bill in a time where we didn't have even the most basic of medical treatment options that we have today. So, Mr. Speaker, my cousin and I, we never had this discussion before she passed away. I don't know what she would have decided had she been given the chance, but that's the point. She never had the choice. People deserve a choice. And for those reasons, I stand in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.